Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid. But today is 19th of March 2025. These are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of our show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the meeting of the National Security Committee that was held yesterday. And of course, all the important leaders from across Pakistan were there, from the different sections of the society, whether it be from our armed forces or the chief ministers of the different provinces. Our Prime Minister was there, so was the Chief of the Army Staff. And important deliberations were held between the members of this committee to move forward under the current circumstances, and of course a statement was issued after this meeting was held that was read by our Prime Minister, and it highlighted different facets of our security paradigm. We'll be highlighting those. We'll be highlighting what Pakistan will be doing, needs to do under the current circumstances that it is faced with, under the current challenges that it is faced with in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the situation in Palestine, in Gaza. Today is day 529 of when the whole conflict began between Israel and Palestine. But it seems as if seeing the number of casualties that Israel has killed, or I mean, this is what I want to say, the brutalities that have restarted from the Israeli side that has resulted in the deaths of more than 400 people and the injuring of scores of others also highlights either the end of the current ceasefire agreement or the fact that Israel is in no mood to continue with a process that could lead to peace in the region. We'll be highlighting different aspects of that in our second segment. Then we'll be talking about the huge trove of JFK assassination files that has been officially released, a case that still sparks conspiracy theories 60 years after the killing of John F. Kennedy. And the fact is that there are so many theories about it that the more files that people get access to, the more they will understand or learn what really happened, what were the different interviews that were done, and what were the different points of views that were at that point of view discussed by the people after the killing of JFK. He was, of course, as we very well know, shot during a visit to Dallas, Texas on the 22nd of November 1963. So many decades later, a first trove, a very important trove of documents are released concerning the assassination of the then US President. Then we'll be finally talking about the two stranded astronauts. We talked about it the day before yesterday, that it had been planned now that they will be returning back to Earth after a period of a couple of months where they were stranded in space, but now they are already back, and of course a lot of people are extremely happy that this release process has gone in a very smooth manner. The return has happened in a very smooth manner. The four astronauts have returned, in which there's one cosmonaut also who has come back, and of course there's a mission that has now replaced them. It was not an ordeal, but it was nevertheless not an easy task for these two astronauts who were stranded in space for much more than they were originally planned to. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin with our first segment, and that, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the meeting of the National Security Committee that was held yesterday, and many deliberations that were held. It was an in-camera meeting, so of course no mobile phones were allowed as well, and the press wasn't there. But the importance was paramount of this meeting, and of course the declaration or the statement that came out after this meeting also was very important. That was read by our Prime Minister. We have been joined by two guests to discuss that in more detail. Let me introduce them one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Abdullah Khan Sahib. He's the managing director of a think tank known as PICS, whose data and statistics we naturally take whenever we talk about the casualties in Pakistan in these different terrorist incidents. Thank you very much, Abdullah Khan Sahib, to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Lieutenant General Raza Khan Sahib, Raza Muhammad Khan Sahib, who's a senior analyst, a defense analyst, and a regular on our show. But we have the opportunity to have him after a long hiatus. Thank you very much, sir, to have given us the time for this segment today. We'll begin with you, Abdullah Khan Sahib. The Parliamentary Committee of the National Security meeting is attended yesterday by our Prime Minister, by members of the Parliamentary Committee, political leaders, the Chief of the Army Staff, key federal ministers, senior officials from the military and intelligence agencies. It's an in-camera briefing, and the whole aspect was to reiterate that not only the nation's resolve to eradicate terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, but also to look at different ways where this could be done in a proper and effective manner. How pertinent was the convening of this meeting at the time that it was convened?
Thank you for having me in your show. It was much needed because the rise in terrorism is growing day by day. We are witnessing different kind of terrorist activities, not just in Balochistan, but in KP as well. And the connections are very strong between different militant groups operating under different umbrellas, but doing same kind of things. So it was required that the whole of a nation kind of a response should be given, and for that I think that was a very good mood held yesterday, and perhaps we were able to give a good message at least. And I don't know to what extent this meeting will translate into a proper actions, but I believe that what happened in the past after such kind of meetings, we have seen that the nation was sensitized and some kind of initiatives were launched. National Action Plan is already there, Vision Azme Istekam is already there, and there are other strategies already there. So we have to see that how they will go about it, how these strategies will be implemented, and how we will be able to actually tackle the situation on the ground. That is the question, how this consensus will translate into actions on the ground.
All right, General Raza Khan Saab, the forum has emphasized the immediate implementation not only of the National Action Plan but also the Azme Istekam strategy. Both of these are, but of course, this points to a more robust implementation of that. To dismantle, this is what the mood says, the terror networks, the logistical support systems, and the nexus between terrorism and crime. What should, in your point of view, sir, who has witnessed a lot of that in the past as well, be the modalities of the implementation of these two strategies, these two important programs, the National Action Plan as the Azme Istekam strategy, in the wake of these recent terrorist incidents that we've seen in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan?
Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. First of all, I think I must say that the declaration of the National Security Committee of the Parliament were very well received by the entire nation because it reflected, the sentiments and the aspirations of the people of Pakistan. I think there was consensus on a number of issues, and I'll very briefly mention them. And the first one is that obviously national security is paramount, I think, and everything else should then flow from national security. And unless there is security in Pakistan, economic well-being of the people will become very difficult. And then it was agreed that it has to be a combination and a coordinated employment of all elements of national power through which now the reappraised National Action Plan would be implemented. And I think there will be emphasis now on political, diplomatic, economic, military, psychosocial, informational elements of national power, which will be focused upon. And the reason for that has been highlighted, that this is the war of our survival, not our survival alone, but also of the future generations of Pakistan. Areas of, again, further emphasis were, the role of the clergy or the religious leaders who must now negate the narrative of the terrorists, some particularly those who are operating in KP, and also the narrative of others who are operating in Balochistan, who are focusing mainly on provincialism and also separatism. Then, of course, there was the need for defeating the financiers, the sympathizer, logistic providers of the terrorists, wherever they may be. And the defense minister, I think yesterday to a private media channel, he was asked a question, if this entails, hunting down the terrorists, even if they're abroad. So his answer to that was in the affirmative. And of course, it was stated very clearly that we cannot afford to be a soft states which actually accepts lawlessness inside and also who can be attacked by terrorists and that those terrorists are also scot-free. So we hope that all these declarations will now be transformed into policy imperatives by various ministries of the government of Pakistan at the federal level. And I think the provinces must draw their inspirations and policies in the form of a structured and well-written provincial action plans as well. In particular, the frontline states of Balochistan and KP. And I think very clear messages have been sent both to the terrorists as well as their sponsors and supporters, whether they're in India or in Afghanistan. And I think some people say that one of the political parties did not attend. I think it was only a few of them who were outside. And the fact that the Chief Minister of Balochistan was part of the NSC meeting, that was important. And I think he also agreed to the collective declaration of the NSC meeting.
All right, and these are very important points, and of course you've resumed more or less what was, what happened in this of the National Security Committee. But Abdullah Khan Sahab, I'd like to understand, the committee stresses the need for a strategic and unified political resolve. It talks about combining the full might of the state to eliminate terrorism for the country. And of course, as General Sahab pointed out, it was declared that some of the opposition members were absent from the meeting, but the committee said that it will strive for its commitment to continue this consultative process in the future as well. Shouldn't there be a unified political approach when it comes to issues such as terrorism? Because it's not as if one political party is affected by it and the other is not, because the people of the nation are affected by it in all different parts of the country. How important is it to have a unified political perspective and commitment in order to thwart terrorism from Pakistan?
I think this is the basic requirement of whole of a nation approach, and especially when the political forces are behind our armed forces, then the result we have seen in the past were tremendous. Especially in SWAT operation, we have seen that our armed forces were backed by all the political people across all the political spectrum, and that the result was that we cleared the SWAT, which was infested by terrorists. It was literally occupied by the terrorists for 2 years, and then we have seen that they cleared it in 2012, handed over to the civil administration. That was a remarkable success, but that was possible due to the political consensus. Operation Zarbayaz, June 2014, whole nation was behind our armed forces, and we cleared North Waziristan and Khyber and entire FATA with that political consensus. But very important, timeline is very important. In June, Operation Zarbayaz was launched, but in August 2014, Imran Khan and PTI had, started their long march towards Islamabad and sat here since 14th of August onward for 4 months, 5 months till the APS happened, and in January they called off there. So despite, there was a urgent need that our forces were fighting, there was a need to back them, but that there was a political, crisis established in Islamabad. So there is a history, unfortunately, that PTI sometimes or most of the times overlooks this requirement, which is for the national cause. I think they claim to be the biggest party. They should have shown the big heart that it was the issue was Pakistan. The issue was not a political issue. Jafar expressed the people who were killed who were in Pakistan. Those who were behind these attacks, the Indians, they were anti-Pakistan, the adversaries. So that was a thing that this political party and its leadership should have thought about that. I wish that the process which is initiated, that it is said in the statement that rapprochement will be done and they will be brought in, and I hope and I request them that this is the issue of Pakistan. We are all here just because of Pakistan, and Pakistan here are politics and all these things are here. We are, we are fighting like a family. We are member of the same family. We are the Pakistanis. But when it comes to outside, because the threat is clearly outside, it is, in Balochistan, everybody knows who is, doing all these things. The first terrorist attack in Balochistan not happened after Bugti's killing. It was happened in 2000. It is clearly mentioned, and BLS, all chronologies of which they present to the people. And it was coincided with the international games against Pakistan in Afghanistan when there was a invasion in Afghanistan. It was actually Pakistan was targeted, and Pakistan very meticulously fought that war. So many armies came in Afghanistan just for one Osama bin Laden or Taliban? No. They came after nuclear Pakistan, and Pakistan, with I think hats off to our leadership that we fought that war for 20 years and then we overcame. And then now this recent cycle of violence for the last 3 years, this is that they are trying to punish us what we did for 20 years because we preserve our interest in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But now they are after us, they are punishing us, trying to punish us. They will again be defeated because Pakistan is a resilient country. But the most important thing is that our whole nation needs to understand what is the problem.
Exactly. Exactly. There needs to be a whole of a nation approach, and we need to all join hands and join forces in order to thwart this once and for all. Raza Khan Sahab, I'd like to understand the committee also expressed concerns as the growing misuse of social media platforms by terrorist groups is also concerned, whether it be to spread propaganda, whether it be to recruit followers, whether it be to coordinate the attacks. And we've seen examples of that in the recent attacks as well, from Jafar Express to the others. And of course, the resultant hike that also we saw in the Indian social media platforms as well and Indian media. What kind of measures are required in your point of view to dismantle such social media networks that are operated by terrorists?
I think digital terrorism can be contained. It cannot be eliminated, but could be contained through a number of legal and constitutional measures. There is this PACA amended ordinance. I think that is now in force. That will make a difference. At the same time, I think all these major information platforms, whether they are meta platforms or there are others, I think they need to have their resident offices in big cities in Pakistan, so that the misuse of those platforms can be controlled by them, and so that our courts can also hold them accountable for this. As is being done in other countries of the world, as is being done in India, in Europe and other places. At the same time, it is the responsibility of our media, our academia, and even our teachers and parents, to spread awareness about the misuse of media for these purposes, particularly by our youth, some of whose minds may have been hijacked in the past, but I think that needs to be controlled. Having said that, I'd like to come back, to the objectives now of the NSC declarations. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it has now been made clear that if needed, I think these terrorists will be hunted. They will be traced wherever they may be in the world, and we will go after them. And we have a right to do this in accordance with the United Nations Security Council Resolution, Article 51, which very clearly says that member states have their inherent right to self-defense if they are attacked, and we are being attacked again and again. It is our right, to defend ourselves in the way we feel appropriate, both defensively inside Pakistan through the reappraised national and provincial action plans, and if needed, cross frontier to dismantle the terrorist hideout, and also to make sure that the NATO caliber weapons held by them, particularly in Afghanistan, which the government of Afghanistan refuses to collect back from these terrorists, cross-border sort of actions will be needed to disallow these terrorists to use these weapons, also to disrupt them. In the past, when such kind of actions were taken, at least temporarily, they were dislocated and some of their activities were disturbed for some time. So I think that needs to be a vital component of our response. which would add to the deterrent value of our counter-terrorism operations. When it comes to the defensive component, I think the missing or the weak link in this chain is the provincial counter-terrorism departments, particularly of KP and Balochistan, on which more needs to be spent, because that was directed, that's a very important component of the National Action Plan. All the provinces are supposed to deploy self-sufficient, very well trained and very well equipped counter-terrorism departments for containing terrorism and also for protecting their routes and lines of communication. We are aware, that the Jafar Express casualties could have been avoided had there been good, reliable communication, particularly either mobile communication or satellite communications in those areas which are inaccessible. Unfortunately, the terrorists had that kind of communication, but we did not. So it is for the government of KP and Balochistan to make sure that their infrastructure, particularly communication infrastructure, wherever it is well linked, and also that the levies in Balochistan, in particular, who are responsible for the defense of the infrastructure. They are well trained and well equipped, well motivated, and if need be, their operations must be coordinated with those of the police, the FCs, and all other LEAs in Balochistan.
All right, so this is what you're trying to propose. I'm sure that this is what our armed forces might have also discussed in very much detail as to how to move forward. Our Chief of the Army Staff, Abdullah Khan Saab, says that if the country exists, then we exist. Therefore, nothing is more important than the security of the nation. I think that has been said time and again. I think it's very important for people in Pakistan to understand that, because of a lot of us, I feel, have become immune, not immune, but insensitive to all that has been happening in the country as far as terror incidents are concerned. I don't know whatever the reasons is, but the Chief of the Army Staff, as Raza Khan Sahab also points out, has underscored the need to improve governance and transform Pakistan into a hard state from a soft state. What measures, in your point of view, need to be taken for Pakistan to improve its governance and to become a hard state?
I think this Army Chief has pointed out since his appointment as Army Chief at the very beginning, a very important aspect of this terrorism, and that is the illegal spectrum and its nexus with the terrorist networks. During General Rahi's brief, we had seen that he had highlighted the corruption's linkages with the terrorism, and that was also very important. But this Army Chief has also included into that corruption and illegal spectrum, which is very important. And since he became chief, we have seen that measures have been taken along Balochistan, Iran border, and KP and Afghanistan border as well. And that is a result that those forces who were directly affected by these actions, now they are also pumping their money and resources towards the militants, and they are supporting them, because the militants are terrorists. They are flourishing on this, because this nexus of illegal spectrum with the terrorists is the actually the root cause. So I think it is sort of the blowback effect. They are trying their hard that to push Pakistani state and this kind of decision that the state should reverse these actions which are put in place in Balochistan and Iran border and KP and Afghanistan border, due to which we have seen stability in dollar and many other things we have seen the actions. So and I think when Army Chief says that we should make it hard state, I think that means the rule of law in the country. Unfortunately, there are many areas where we need improvement, and rule of law is one of them that we have to improve across the country, and there should be merit. And there are many other things we have to look. In context of specifically Balochistan, we have to see that if a person, 10 years back, if he was hiding from an inspector, and now a true star may be forced to salute him. That what were the patterns, the people of that credential reach to that level. I don't name anybody, but there are things which are in the system which are eroding overall rule of law because of these kind of activities, specifically in Balochistan. So Balochistan needs, very I think attention, big attention of whole nation, and especially those who are decision makers. I think the vision of the army chief is in the right direction, but we need to have support in the state mechanism to implement his vision, so that what he has pointed out, it should be properly eradicated and settled down as well. And that is very important, where I think the adversaries are pushing back hard, which we have seen, it is coinciding. Since he became chief, we have seen a surge in terrorist activities because they are trying to actually discredit him or his initiatives launched in KP and Balochistan.
And there are many people behind it as well from different circles, and that is what needs to also be catered to in a proper and effective manner. Raza sahab, you talked about the National Action Plan and its proper implementation. There's also the National Prevention of Violent Extremism policy that has recently been unveiled. Do you feel all of these policies need to be combined together in order for Pakistan to evolve a strategy that could be effective in the long and short term?
Yes, I think it needs to be done. Although, unfortunately in Pakistan, there is no clear division of whose primary responsibility is to control, defense against terrorism. I think it is the Ministry of Defense and the Interior Ministry which are now working hand in glove to do that, with other ministries of the government of Pakistan in a supportive role. But I think greater responsibility is that now as of the provinces as well. Having said that, I think the issue of how to deal with Afghanistan would also now will be on the agenda of our foreign policy. In that, I think the issue of the relocation of the Afghan refugees which were to go back to NATO countries, including the US, and now some ambiguities about that have arisen that needs to be cleared. When will they go back, if at all? Secondly, I think we need to now take a cue from the policies of the United States, the current policies about immigration and immigrants, while legal or illegal, mainly illegal, the way they are deported. We now have still a number of more than 2 million refugees for the last 40 years, and I think it's right time for them to go back to their countries, because they are posing, some of them are posing national security threats and risks to the government of Pakistan. The government of Afghanistan needs to be given, very clear messages that many incentives that we have been showing them in the past, like preferential trade agreement and support at political and diplomatic levels, could turn into disincentives if they continue with their current policies. The border control at Torkham and Chaman must be strengthened, essentially by the Ministry of Interior and also through the custom departments, and all other smaller crossing points on the Pak-Afghan borders needs to be closed. Greater cooperation with Iran would be necessary, and one of their very senior ministers, he had indicated after the Jafar Express episode that they are prepared to provide any kind of support to them, and that will be necessary because many of the terrorists, they use the Iranian soil for entry inside Afghanistan, and Iran has already started its own fencing with Afghanistan, which includes the wall also. So I think that is going to be very useful. China, Iran, the UAE, Qatar, who are actually helping Afghanistan in their reconstruction and rehabilitation of their economy, they have a lot of influence on the present government of Afghanistan. They must exercise this influence and prevail upon them to stop supporting the terrorists which are hurting Pakistan. And also, I think the criteria of dialogue with terrorists who do not recognize our provincial governments or our constitution or the government of Pakistan, I think there should be no talks with them. And I think the talks could be conducted with only those who accept the constitution of Pakistan and that of the provinces.
I agree with you on that. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so very much, Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan Sahab, defense analyst, to have joined us. Thank you so very much, Abdullah Khan Sahab, managing director, to have joined us as well. And we continue to, of course, look at your statistics and all the facts and figures that you provide to us, because that helps us also get a better understanding of where things are moving along as far as our security paradigm is concerned. Thank you again to have joined us. We'll be back after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the situation in Gaza. Today is day 259 since the whole conflict began between Israel and Palestine. And it seems as if Israel is no longer exceeding or respecting the ceasefire agreement that was present between both the sides, because if you look at the number of casualties that have now surpassed 400 just in the last few days, and the aerial bombing that continues to happen in different areas of Palestine, it seems as if Israel has a complete disregard not only for humanity, human laws. We knew that they had that, but we thought maybe the ceasefire agreement will kind of pave the way for a more proper, cohesive approach towards the situation. But unfortunately, Israel is Israel, and of course it is doing what it has always done and it has always wanted to do, in fact, to completely cleanse Palestine of all the Palestinians and create their own heaven, so-called, there. Anyways, we've been joined by two guests to discuss more on that. In the studios, we've been joined by Bakr Younas. He's an Arab journalist and a regular in our shows. Thank you very much, Bakr, to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Saira Nawaz Abbasi Sahiba. She's an international relations expert. Ma'am, thank you very much to have joined us. This time online, I hope the next time we'll get to see you in person in the studios. We'll begin with you, Bakr Sahab. More than 400 Palestinians are killed. Many women and children. In fact, if you look at the number of children, at least one report talks about 174 children minimum who have been killed in just these last few strikes, Then, of course, there is so much that is happening at the same time. A blockade of aid that has entered its 17th day. There's no aid coming. There's no electricity for the people in Palestine. Why is this happening? I mean, I fail to understand. I mean, why accept a ceasefire agreement if you had to resort to this kind of barbarism at the end of the day?
So actually, we are asking a criminal why you are a criminal. I think there's no justification for any crime, and there is no any law or a constitution of a country or a state that permit the country to kill children. So the number of children who have been killed in the last strike only, and the number of children who have been already killed in this the war they made against Gaza after 7th October, shows that we are not dealing with a state, we are not dealing with a normal, let's say, state or whatever they call themselves. We are dealing with a criminal mentality, we are dealing with a criminal strategy. That
a genocidal strategy.
Exactly, that they are targeting not only to show or to have a stability in the region. No, they are actually looking or targeting especially the Palestinians, especially the children. They want to eliminate the Palestinians. They don't want, by the way, to have, as you just said, that they want to have their heaven in Gaza. They have already occupied around 90% of Palestinian land. Where is their heaven? They don't have it yet. They now believe that the heaven, the dream, they want to achieve it's only in Gaza, which is around 360 square feet, which is actually totally, there's no logic, actually, nothing to say about it. It's just a criminal. They are criminals. The problem is what? They have this much of weapons. They have this much support from the US. They have this much support from the international community. Otherwise, they would have not done this. They are doing it because they have the support. They are doing it because they have the green light. And U.S. administration have said that we have given the Israeli the green light to do it. So to do what?
Because they consulted, this is what they said, they consulted with Trump before they launched this attack.
So they haven't actually targeted Hamas. They have not only targeted Hamas, they are not fighting with Hamas now anymore. Since the 7th of October, they are killing the Palestinians people. They are killing the Palestinians. They want to eliminate the coming generation. They want us to believe that we are the slaves of the Israelis, the slaves of the weapons they have, the slaves of their power, which will never happen, because at the end, they are dealing with the real owners of the land. The Palestinians are the real owner of the land. The Israelis are the one who came after 1948. So who have to remain at the end in this land? Of course, the original, people, the real owners will remain. This genocide now, which is started again happening, and this crime, which is openly everybody seeing now, it is now. I don't think it's only the Israelis are accountable for it, but the U.S. also accountable for it. The international community is accountable, and every country who see this and can stop it and not doing it, it will be also held accountable for the same crime.
I hope this accountability process starts sooner than later, because it is high time. It is too much blood has been spilled in the last year or so, and too much destruction has happened, for people to stay quiet the way they are. Saira, Nawaz, Abbasi, Sahiba, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the new bombardment is only the beginning, quote unquote. He says all negotiations for the ceasefire will now take place under fire. Tanks have been deployed. He also refuses to implement stage 2 and says we need to extend this stage 1, because the whole intention is to get back as many of the hostages as possible, and that is the only intention they have. I don't feel they have any intention of continuing with any form of peace process. They just want the hostages back, and then they want to bombard Palestine into non-existence. What role do you feel that he can achieve the goals that he wants to achieve through war? Do you feel the last year or so has kind of shown that? And also, we know that there are domestic problems for Netanyahu as well within Israel. Do you feel these are also playing some kind of a role, because he has to assert himself as a political leader? What's your take on all of this?
Thank you very much, Mr. Omar, for having me at your show. Benjamin Netanyahu is playing a trick here, I would say. This war, the resumption of hostilities are not just, to target Hamas or to target the Palestinians, but as you have clearly mentioned in your question also, that domestically he is facing significant political and legal troubles, which are of course influencing his military decisions also. So these resumptions of hostilities, they show at the first place that the diplomatic efforts are failed, and both sides remain locked in a cycle of retaliation with no clear path towards the resolution of the conflict. The most important aspect of analyzing the resumption of this deadly attack or deadly campaign in Gaza is about its timing. And definitely it's Israel's military strategy to achieve its stated goals to dismantle Hamas, of course. However, it has the personal connotation into this matter also, because Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu and other senior Israeli officials, the morning they have attacked, actually that was the day of the court hearing of his corruption trial, which was long delayed because of the war. And he was very wisely and I would say shrewdly, he had indicated, and he had given the orders to the military that they should resume the attacks on the Palestinians. So basically, that was the day when his hearing was scheduled. And as a result of that, the Jerusalem District Court cancelled his hearing, citing the urgency of the matter. And for that matter, his trial was delayed. So it has the military aspect also. And military aspect is, of course, influenced by his political, because if by any chance there was and then his government also on the verge of falling because of the right-wing party, who's the part of the coalition of his government, is also indicating to get away because after the January 5 ceasefire. So our war in Gaza, I would say, shift public attention away from these internal crises and also allow him to consolidate its support from the right-wing factions who advocate for a hardline approach. So additionally, in addition to this, I think the refusal to implement the second phase of ceasefire and resuming the hostilities give him the leverage over both domestic and international actors, and ensuring that he remains in control of the narrative and of the power. Now, coming back to the second part of your question, that is about what goals he wants to achieve from this resumption of the hostilities. As we all know that the stated objectives by the Netanyahu government was, one, to destroy the Hamas, second was to return the hostages, and to ensure, third is to ensure the Israel security. However, the military campaign led by the Israel failed to eliminate Hamas at the first place, and they also failed to bring the long-term stability and security. Although it had weakened the Hamas temporarily, but could not dismantle it completely, and it could not be possible in any way. They could not provide the sustainable security situation solution of the matter. So instead, a repeated cycle of escalation further radicalized the population. So I don't think that he had achieved any objective, or he would be going to achieve any objective. Yes, but he is successful in diverting the public attention, I would say.
All right. So basic a diversionary tactic, but at the cost of hundreds and hundreds of lives. Bakir, the US says the Hamas is to blame completely for Israel's massive deadly airstrikes because the group have accepted a ceasefire, could have accepted a ceasefire extension proposal by the US, and they did not because they want to move towards stage 2. As if, Hamas did not want peace. In fact, it wanted war, and that is what they are giving as a result of that. Hamas spokesperson says the group is dealing responsibly and positively with whatever is proposed to stop the aggression, but they also said that Israel has been surprised by Hamas's strict adherence and implementation of the agreed upon ceasefire. A very strained attitude, to say the least, and this blame game that is coming just because the Hamas side or the Palestinian side refused to adhere to the conditionalities given or proposed by the Israeli and the US side to extend the first phase, because they knew exactly what was coming, because they want both the sides want that the hostages be returned as soon as possible. Once they have the maximum hostages, then they will move to further action. And when they saw that they were not relenting, so we see exactly the result that they would have done anyways later in the day, but they did it beforehand. What will Israel and US achieve through this new spate of terrorism? Or what do they hope to achieve? Because if they hope to achieve the end of Hamas, that's not possible. If they hope to achieve the end of the will of the Palestinian people, that they have not yet achieved, what do they want to achieve?
I think the thing that really want to see, that Palestinian people raise the white flag, surrendering, leaving Gaza, and telling the Israelis, yes, you have the right in Palestine, you have the right in Masjid al-Aqsa, which is as a Muslim, it's our first Qibla, the holy place. We are not going to consider it a holy place anymore. We're not going to consider it as a first Qibla anymore. You have the right, take it, and we are leaving Palestine. That's what they are actually hoping to see, which is not happen. If you eliminate the Palestinians today, who lives in Gaza, so they have to understand that tomorrow, day after, the coming generation will come and demand the same. This is our holy place. Okay, let's take it on the other way. Let the Israelis give the Palestinians Masjid al-Aqsa, because we know that all the fight is about Masjid al-Aqsa. So if they believe that they're saying that Gaza is a very precious place and they want, okay, take Gaza and give us Masjid al-Aqsa. Would they accept? They do not accept. So give us, like our holy place, which we believe, which we are fighting for, which our soul is actually all giving for them, for it, and take Gaza. They're not going to do this. So what do they want? They want our surrender. They want our elimination. They want, even I'm sure when they in their closed door, they among themselves they believe that this is not going to happen. They believe that the killing of Palestinians will not give them what they want, but they have no other option. How they will let the Arab and the Muslim world believe that they are the strongest nation in the world is by killing. They don't have other strategy. They don't have this kind of, what do you call it, like a fruitful future for the Palestinians. They never give us. Since 1948 till to 2025, we are seeing from the Israeli the killing. We are seeing from the US the killing. We are not seeing anything more. There's no any flourished life. There's no any, like colorful future they are giving to the Palestinians. They have not even said, okay, we will build for you with Gaza. We will do this for you. Leave the hostages. We will give you access to Masjid al-Aqsa. Leave the hostages. We will stop doing wrongs in Masjid al-Aqsa. We'll stop, allowing the Jewish settlers to go inside Masjid al-Aqsa. They have not said any of these.
And let's not even go to the Jewish settlers, because what they are doing in the occupied West Bank and the way they are being backed by the Israelis. I mean, this is another whole chapter altogether of the continuity of the barbarities on the Palestinians. Dr. Saira, Nawaz, Abbasi Sahib, I'd like to understand the whole issue of the Houthis and Israel as well. Now, the Houthis have been saying all along that they are doing whatever they are doing in the Red Sea because of the atrocities that the Israeli side is perpetrating on the Palestinians. They say the day you stop, we will stop as well. And of course, now that they are seeing that the Israelis are not stopping, they have started to, also elevate their end game as far as the Red Sea is concerned. In your point of view, will the Houthis continue to target US and Israeli interests till a ceasefire is achieved, a long-term ceasefire is achieved? Will this cause help the Palestinians?
Well, as part of, as they have mentioned many times, that as part of their support towards Palestinian issues, I think Houthis would likely to continue their attacks on the US and Israeli interest, because that is the part of their broader strategy of, positioning themselves as defenders of the Palestinian cause and resistance to the Western influence in the region. So their missile strikes and naval disruptions in the Red Sea, they serve both as symbolic acts of defiance and as tactical moves to pressure Israel and its allies. However, while these attacks may escalate the tensions and draw attention to the Gaza's plight, but they are unlikely to directly alter the course of Israel's military campaign or lead to meaningful relief for the Palestinians. Instead, I believe there would be more risk of further militarization of the conflict. That would provoke, of course, harsher US response as well as the Israeli response against the Yemen, and which could also shift the focus away from Gaza. So in the long run, unless these actions are coupled with broader diplomatic and political strategies, they may serve more to reinforce existing hostilities rather than securing tangible benefits for the people of Palestine. Because violence and military action is never answer to the political problem. So for the political solution, I believe it is very, very important that all the disputants and the actors, they resort to the political solution. And of course, the role of the United States of America is very important.
None of the sides, I mean, even the Israeli side has not resorted to, a kind of a political solution, and maybe they needed to be responded to with the same kind of attitude that they had been perpetrating on the Palestinians. Anyway, I'm not advocating any of the side. I'm just stating the facts as they are. Nevertheless, let's see what happens, because there's so much blood is being shed as we speak in Palestine that we don't know where all of this is going, and all again in the holy month of Ramadan, of all the months. And to what end is something that remains a huge question mark for myself and to so many others who are seeing this new chapter of violence unfold. Thank you so very much, Dr. Saira, Nawaz, Abbasi Sahib, to have joined us. Thank you very much, Baki Younas, to have joined us in the studio as well. This just breaks my heart, when I see all of that, when I see the women and the children who are being butchered the way they are. When you look at how the Jewish settlers are, dealing with people in the occupied West Bank, it's just, I have no words, but, we have to just state facts and figures, but a lot of emotion is involved as well. And let's see how this whole situation evolves in the next couple of days. We'll be all, looking at what the world reacts and how the world reacts to this new chapter of violence. We will end, of course, our show with two stories. Let me not introduce, but let me talk about them one by one. The first concerns the big trove of JFK assassination files that has now been released to the public. An issue that had been that had led to so many controversies, that had led to so many theories as far as what had happened, who was involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963 on the 22nd of November in Dallas and Texas, where he was shot. And now the huge trove of files that has now been unearthed or have given public access might lead to some of the answers, or might lead to even more conspiracy theories as to what actually happened or what actually did not happen. These unanswered questions, I hope this new trove of documents is going to give to us in the long run. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the two astronauts that we had talked to you about the day before yesterday, that they were now returning to Earth, have now finally returned to Earth after a period of 9 months. They splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico, and there was a lot of cheers and joy, because they were not the only. There are 4 people. In fact, there are 2 of the astronauts, one from NASA and of course one cosmonaut also, who is accompanying them, and there's a new mission that is now there in its place as well. Both these astronauts had worked on 150 science experiments during this stay that was, of course, extended due to technical issues, but finally NASA managed to do the needful and bring them back home. I hope that such incidents will not, and we all hope that such incidents will not happen in the future, that all the astronauts that go and come stay in space for their desired number of days. Anyways, good news on that front. With that, we come to an end of today's Newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments pertaining to us, you in Pakistan. Stay safe, Allah.